Hello, my loves. Continue to update new stories on Reddit, and don't forget if you like it, please subscribe and like it. Now let's start new stories. Story: Was I right to stay in my marriage after discovering my husband's past behavior? Hi everyone, I've been reflecting on my relationship 3 years and a half and wanted to get some outside perspectives. My husband 27 years old and I am 26 years old, dated for 2 years before getting married. During our dating period, I noticed he had a lack of boundaries with his female friends, which was a constant issue for me. He had been cheated on in a previous relationship, which led him to make several changes in his life, including maintaining close friendships with women. After living together for a month and loving each other's company, we decided to get married. Our long-distance relationship had been draining, so the decision felt right at the time. However, a few months into our marriage, I discovered that during a rough patch in our relationship, he had spoken badly and untruthfully about me to some of his close female friends. This happened several months before our marriage. My husband struggles with wanting to look good in front of his friends and finds it hard to say no to them. Learning about this past behavior was devastating for me. I felt incredibly hurt, angry, and disrespected, and I immediately considered separating, despite us only being married for 4 months. When confronted, he begged for another chance, assuring me that he had been loyal and respectful of boundaries for the 3 months leading up to our decision to get married. He promised to show me that he had changed and asked for forgiveness for speaking behind my back. Despite my anger and hurt, I chose to stay because I love him deeply, and I could see he was different from the man he used to be. Since then, he has stuck to his boundaries and has not crossed any lines with his female friends. It's been a year since that low point in our marriage. We are still long distance, but our love remains strong, and each day has been a journey of loving and learning about each other. While I don't regret staying, I sometimes wonder if I was right to stay from an outside perspective. Was it fair to myself to stay in the marriage after feeling so disrespected? Am I being unloving to myself for forgiving and moving forward? I would appreciate any thoughts or advice from those who have been in similar situations or can offer an outside perspective. Discovered my husband 27 years old spoke badly about me 26 years old to female friends during a rough patch before marriage. Wanted to leave but stayed because I love him and he promised to change. A year later, our love is strong, but I still wonder if staying was right. Looking for outside perspectives. Story: It's the 45th time within 2.5 months I started crying because I don't feel smart enough. Imposter. Hey, me 30 years old, am dating someone 22 years old since 2.5 months. Yes, the age difference was unexpected. I look younger, he looks older, so we both thought we are 25 on 26. But that's not the problem here. He is very genuine, rational, smart, active in society, etc. We met at some critical theory workshop in Berlin. I figured he won some national competition in sociology and is studying politics and philosophy. When we are together, except these situations when I start overthinking and then crying, we have the best time in our life. We vibe a lot, have the same sense of humor, trust each other, prefer STH more than vanilla, and I feel very comfortable by his side. But there is this one thing my therapists could not really help me with yet, so he likes talking about philosophy and I learn a lot and love it. At the same time, when he says something and I don't have a smart answer, it already happened a few times that I started crying, fearing he would figure out sooner or later that I was not as knowledgeable as he was. More like average, but not a prodigy who reads as many books as he does, etc. I studied law, am doing my PhD and am very interested into philosophy and politics, but don't have so much time as to indulge super deep in it. I did have good grades, achieved quite some things, but BCPF childhood, which I apparently did not process completely yet. I think I only deserve love when successful and smart. When I cry, he is super kind and calms me down, saying I was smart and did not have to say anything. However, since it happened quite often now, he does say that he does not feel comfortable when it happens so often, which I totally get. I would question myself as well, if my partner was crying BC of me. Any advice on how to stop crying, regain my self-confidence? I am scared this will become a self-fulfilling prophecy and I will somehow fuck it up. Indeed, just today, when I cried again, I said, maybe I need a partner who is less smart, which, obviously, hurt him a lot. That he communicated clearly, saying it was not cool. I tend to do these things to protect me and rather fuck it up myself than to let somebody dump me, which is very psycho, I know, and I am scared it happened in the first place. I think I can control myself in not saying something similar like that again, especially since I don't want no other, but about the crying, I am not sure. My partner is very knowledgeable in philosophy and, from time to time, passionately tells me something about this topic. I find that fascinating, but at the same time, I start overthinking, thinking I don't know as much as he does and he will break up with me once he finds out imposter. Story, future Fael, 56, keeps putting pressure on me, 32M, and my fiancé, F30, to get married sooner. How do I handle this? To start off, me and my future wife have been together for 3 years and we plan to do a wedding in Greece in 2026. The thing is that I want to save up for the wedding so I can pay for everything. Me and my partner don't agree with the way weddings are done in our country. You go to someone's wedding and give them an envelope with a large amount of cash, and in return they will come to your wedding and give you an envelope of cash when your time will come. I completely hate this way of doing things, which is why I want a wedding in another country with few close friends and with no envelopes or gifts. Now the problem is that it will take me some time to raise the money needed, and here is where problems start to come. My Phil keeps insisting that we should wed earlier and keeps asking my fiancé why are we taking so long. Also, he offered to pay for everything provided that we do the wedding in our own country, or if we insist, to help us with the costs of a foreign wedding, to which I refused for several reasons. The first reason is that he always likes to be in control of everything, and by accepting we won't have any say in how the wedding is going to be organized. Secondly, I want to achieve something by myself and offer my partner a memorable experience, and to which I'm 110% sure that my Phil won't agree with some of our mine choices. The latest thing that he has done, and to which I feel has put some tensions between me and my partner, is that he wants to take a trip to Asia, in which he wants to go with his wife and his daughter, but not with me because he stated that we are not married yet and that he would offer or take us on expensive trips if we were to be married. I feel like he is doing this on purpose to exert pressure on me and my partner. Another thing that my partner tends to agree with him and also started putting pressure on me. She usually tends to agree to what her parents say or get caught in the middle between me and them. Also, for more context, I work a decent job in the IT sector and have a good enough income to afford the Greek wedding. The only problem is that we have to wait a bit. And no, I hate the idea of a bank loan. FIL putting pressure on me and my partner to marry earlier than we planned. I want to wait because I want to pay for the entire wedding by myself, since I want to have things in a certain way and won't settle for less or something else. Phil keeps bugging my partner and has recently offered to take her and his wife on an expensive vacation to Asia, but not me since we are not married yet. Story, I'm starting to catch feelings for my boyfriend's friend. My boyfriend, who is 12 years older than me, doesn't really work hard for us. He just works for his father's business and go in whenever, while I work at a restaurant serving, and his best friend works hard, so I feel like he would make a great partner. Me 20 years old and my boyfriend 32 years old have been together for almost a year now. We do get a lot of comments about our age difference, which is a little bigger than I'd prefer, but we are both very traditional. Where I live, it's hard to find a guy that's trad, so I instantly fell for him. At first we had a lot of fun and I wasn't really staying with him all that often. I live an hour away, so it was kinda hard to make time for staying with him with my work schedule and such. My hours got cut at my part-time job, so as I've been looking for a new job, I've been staying with him a lot more. I ended up getting a serving job in his town so I could spend more time with him, because he truly does have a lot going on with his father being sick and some court situation. Ever since I started staying with him, I really got to see the real him. His father owns the business he works for, so he does as he pleases pretty much. We sometimes won't roll out of bed and start our days till 1 p.m. on a weekday. It sorta put a bad taste in my mouth, because I told him he could leave me here alone and that it was totally okay, I'd clean up the house for him. He just doesn't work at all whenever I'm here, and he doesn't do much around the house, which would be okay if he was working, but he just sorta runs around all day doing little stuff. Although, his dad is in a wheelchair and does need some assistance with certain things, but it doesn't take all day, and his father even said, "When will you start working regularly again?" We've been hanging out with one of his good friends a lot recently who does blue-collar work and has been a Marine before. The more we see him, the more my heart sort of grows this feeling towards him. I would never cheat, but knowing he works hard long hours is a green flag in my eyes, and I feel with my traditional beliefs that he would be a great father and husband, willing to work for his family and care for them. He is super respectful and has a big heart. I love my boyfriend now, but in a way he is very feminine. He doesn't really work much, and he also is very obsessed with how he looks, and not in a good way. As I'm at my serving job there for hours on end, I'll check his location and he will still be at the house. I've met a lot of guys who make sure they look presentable, but he is always primping in every single mirror he passes. He will give me his phone and ask me to take photos of him, and I don't mind doing it, but I just feel like on my heart this isn't who I should start my family with because he's so worried about him and never me or others, it's him all the time. He is selfish at times and I'm trying to bring him back down to earth, but I'm starting to give up. I feel terrible because every time we see his friend I can't help but imagine what it would be like with him. He is a very sweet and caring humble guy. I just am wondering, should I stop bringing myself around him when he is with my boyfriend? Or should I tell my boyfriend he doesn't seem manly enough for me? I am worried about hurting his feelings. Story: I feel like my best friend, 21M, is jealous of my GF, 21F, and I don't know if I should keep being friends with him. Hello everyone, I am 21 years old, have a best friend 21 years old, and we have been friends since high school, so for about 5 years. He has gone to a different country, but he still visits pretty often, so we get to see each other every 2 to 3 months. My friend is gay, and I am a straight man. At the same time, I have a girlfriend 21 years old who I have been dating for 3 years. He doesn't really support our relationship because he thinks that since I started dating her we don't really spend time. Which isn't exactly true, but it did play some sort of role. We obviously used to spend more time together when we went to school every day and had nothing to do versus now when I have a relationship and I live with my GF, and also I have a full-time job which takes most of my day. I never thought that he was jealous of my girlfriend, but lately when I took a deeper look into his behavior, I noticed that he is acting sort of strange. Firstly, he dislikes my girlfriend even though she did nothing to him. In fact, she even baked cinnamon rolls for him once when he came over to our flat. After that, he did not even say thank you to her, which sort of offended me. Secondly, when I told him that I went on a trip for my GF's birthday, he didn't seem happy for me at all. He did not ask me how it was, all he said was that he wanted to go on a trip with me and asked me why I didn't go with him instead. I honestly was surprised by his reaction because I wouldn't have reacted this way to my friend. Thirdly, he often makes remarks about my body and jokingly insinuates that I should break up with my GF. When I confronted him about all of this, he said that he has no problem with my GF, but he thinks that I don't spend enough time with him. I don't know what to think of these, but he is the only friend I have in the city, which makes me feel even more alone. I feel like he doesn't value me as a friend and he has weird motives towards me. My best friend of 5 years is acting strange towards me and my relationship and seems like he is jealous of my girlfriend. Story: I, 18F, don't know what to do of my relationship with my GF, 18F, due to some shady behavior. I, 18 years old, don't know what to do about my relationship with my girlfriend 18 years old of some shady behavior. I am 18 years old, recently started dating my best friend, now girlfriend, also 18 years old. Previously, we had been together for around 6 months before going official. I do have to say those months were a little rocky, but eventually we got it together. Anyways, she's been acting strange for a while now, and I don't know what to do about it. When summer break started, I was really scared we wouldn't get to see each other, a lot of family vacation plans and the fact that we live a bit far away from each other. And it's been like that. I did get to see her about a week and a half ago. We got a call that my grandfather had passed away and we had to cut the vacation early in order to go back to my city for the funeral. I asked her if she could go since I really didn't feel like going alone. She lives in the same city. She kind of ignored the proposition and kept talking about other stuff. I kinda wish she had said something. It doesn't matter if it was a no, I would have just liked to get an answer. The next day, I asked her if she wanted to hang out, and we got together at a mall. The original plan was to get something to eat and spend the afternoon together. When we arrived, she decided to go to the cinema instead, and I agreed. Everything was going fine, but when I asked her at what hour should my parents come to pick me up, she said that as soon as the movie ended, a couple of hours before we had originally planned. I thought she maybe had something to do later, but she said no. I lied and told her they couldn't pick me up until the hour we had agreed on. I did this BC, I wanted to spend as much time as I could with her. She said okay, but I could tell it wasn't a good okay. She tried using as an excuse that I would have to spend time with her mom since she was at the mall, but I said I didn't have a problem with that. We ate with her mom and I engaged a conversation with her, but my girlfriend wasn't. At one point, her mom asked me if I wanted to go on a trip with them to a nearby town, and as I was asking about the dates and stuff, my girlfriend interrupted and said no, she can't go, she's gonna be away from town. Which I mean is true, but it just felt wrong the way she said it. The rest of the date was like this, me talking with her mom, her being silent, and eventually I got home. She didn't even held my hand in the whole day, let alone kiss me or hug me. Every time I tried to, she just kinda separated from me as soon as she could. Ever since, she has barely spoken to me. I ended up retaking the vacation, and prioritized staying in contact with her. But she will take days to respond, and when she does it's quite dry, or just a sticker. I know she's available BC, I can see her active on other apps, and I normally don't have a problem with people taking their time to respond, but I feel like days is a little extreme. I thought maybe she was busy, so I asked her and she responded with not at all. Recently, I was scrolling on TikTok and on my FYP appeared a video she had reposted. Out of curiosity I went on to check her reposts and it kinda surprised me what I found. She's obsessed with this reggaeton artist and a lot of the reposts were of her. I didn't really care about those. The thing is, a lot of her reposts are about really pretty girls, far more pretty than me, just showing their faces or lip syncing to a random song. To be honest, I'm very insecure about the way I look, so that's that. But my breaking point was when I found a video of some music lyrics. They said something along the lines of, "Do I really love them, or am I just bored?" and it honestly broke my heart into pieces. I started crying and stuff. I asked her about it and she just said it was her favorite part of the song. After that, I spoke to a friend about how I felt. At first, I didn't want to do so since we're both in the same friend group and I didn't want to start drama, but I just had to share my feelings and concerns with someone. As we were talking, she reminded me of a lot of stuff that I had let slip, but now they seem so relevant I wish I hadn't. Going back a few months when we were first going out, we were not GFS then, the kind of relationship we were perusing was a bit unclear. I have to admit at that time I messed around with other people, but it was only physical, not a single romantic thing. Every time I did I told her, not in a braggy way, I just wanted her to know that I did, and I would rather tell her myself than someone else telling her. One day she told me this actually bothered her, since she was looking for a serious, closed relationship, and she asked me for time off in order to gather her thoughts. I gave it to her, and after a while we decided we both wanted a serious closed relationship, and I've never since done anything with anyone. I feel ashamed of messing around like that. I was going through some stuff, but I know it's not an excuse. After we agreed on that, she started acting a bit shady. She kept her phone close to her at all times. She has one of these screen protectors that doesn't let you see the screen if you're far or at some angles, and every time she picked her phone up, it was clear she placed it at those angles in order for me to not see. When we were watching TikToks or something, she would slide up the notifications really quickly as soon as they popped, and eventually put her phone on sleep mode. One day, a mutual friend told me she was talking with this girl she met on a volleyball match. She plays volleyball, let's call her Val, but she didn't know if she was just casually talking or if it was more than that. Some information you need to know at this point is that she's an asexual, not interested in anything sex-related at all. She's grossed out by it. My friend told me to keep an eye out for Ball, since my girlfriend has cheated in previous relationships. I honestly didn't think much of it, because I trust her or I did at this point. After some days, while hanging with our friend group, she mentioned she was talking with this girl, let's call her Ash. About a year ago, Ash and I had some sort of situationship for a little time, but I ended up leaving because she hurt me a bunch. At that time my girlfriend kinda knew Ash, and they would text a bit. Literally like 2 weeks after Ash and I stopped going out, my girlfriend and Ash kissed, and they had some weird thing where like it was a joke and stuff, but my girlfriend started liking her. Quick reminder, this was about a year ago. Coming back to the conversation with my friends, it made me kinda mad, and really insecure, but I let it slide cause I don't have the right to tell her who she can speak to. A week from this, one of my friends told me I should really do something about it because the way they were talking didn't seem to be in a friend way anymore. That day I had a whole anxiety attack and decided to talk with her about it. In this talk, I told her how I felt insecure and stuff, but I didn't tell her to stop talking to her. I told her if she wanted to keep talking with Ash it was fine, but if at any point she wanted to peruse some relationship with her, I preferred she told me and not cheat on me. She said she wasn't gonna speak to her anymore, but here's some details of the convo I feel are important. Firstly, she told me that one day she went to eat with Val, and that Val brought her flowers. She said something along the lines of she probably did it because my birthday was a week ago and I didn't think much of it. The thing that really bothered me though, my GF jokingly talked of some texts that Ash had sent her. The one that hurt me the most was one where Ash told her blah blah blah, and after that I'm giving you the best kiss of your life. I was like, straight face. So I asked her what had she responded. She told me I told her okay. I mean, she's the type of person that responds okay to absolutely everything, but that just felt out of place. Should I talk to her and tell her how I feel, and if so, what should I tell her? Should I just end things now? Are the things I mentioned something I should keep an eye on? Am I overreacting? Do I keep trusting her? It's just my anxiety overthinking. Am I going insane? So yeah, that's the whole thing. I don't know what to do. I'm worried that she's starting to talk with someone else, or that she's lost interest in me. I don't know if I should confront her. At the same time, I feel like I may be overreacting. I know this is some dumb high school drama, but I'd really appreciate if someone shares some advice, or some objective POV. I'm sorry if the post is messy. I tried my best to explain everything. I am 18 years old, recently started dating 18 years old my best friend, and while our relationship had a rocky start, things have been going well until recently. She's been acting distant and uninterested, especially during our recent meetup where she avoided physical contact and cut our time short. She's been slow to respond to my messages despite being active on social media, and her TikTok reposts, particularly one questioning if she really loves me, have made me feel insecure. Additionally, she's been secretive with her phone and had concerning interactions with other girls. I'm unsure if I should talk to her about my feelings and things, or if I'm overreacting. Story: my 27M partner, 26F, keeps threatening our relationship and lashing out. How do we address it? I am 27 years old, have been with my partner 26 years old for over a year now. The first time we met, we clicked instantly. We have the same sense of humor, have the same hobbies, and we share similar life goals. She is enthusiastic, wholesome, charismatic, the list could go on. I love her dearly, and she makes me happier than anyone else ever has. My parents and friends love her too. Everyone in my life is supportive of our relationship and are happy for us. In all honesty, I am the happiest version of myself. But the last 6 months have been going downhill. We have been getting into arguments. The topics of the arguments are normal and nothing too serious, but the issue lies in how we argue. When we have an argument, she loses her temper. She loses track of the goal and she stops being constructive and cooperative with me. She lashes out at me and says things in the heat of the moment just to harm me or our relationship. Her lashing out isn't limited to when we fight either. She has anxiety and panics sometimes. For example, we were late to the airport recently and she started getting nervous, and while I wasn't doing anything wrong or anything to upset her, it's unavoidable for me to be in the firing line when she lashes out because she's panicked. In the last 6 months, when we've had arguments, there have been a handful of times when she's threatened our relationship. I don't believe she threatens our relationship in a manipulative or controlling way in order to get what she wants. I believe she does it because she goes into self-destruct mode. No matter the reason, I told her that is unacceptable. I seriously talked to her about this back in March and told her how it makes me feel and that she can't do it. She agreed at the time. However, she threatened the relationship again in May. After then, we had a more serious conversation about how I would have no choice but to break up with her if she kept threatening our relationship. I also said she needs to stop lashing out at me. I explained my reasoning to her, and she totally agreed and apologized after she had calmed down. However, lo and behold, last weekend, she threatened our relationship again. Now, I don't know what to do. I told her I would break up with her if she did it again. What kind of precedent would I set if I didn't follow through? I love her so much, but logically I don't see how I can spend my life with someone who acts like this. I don't think we can disagree in a mature manner. I feel like I'm constantly in the firing line. I feel like we are not a team. For all the laughter, joy and happiness we have together, it's always in the moment. I recognize I might be in denial about the future, and that I'm clinging on the happy moments and dissociating from the bad moments. Our relationship feels volatile and insecure. I don't know how I can build a future with someone who makes me feel like we're on the rocks every couple of months. I've also now lost my optimism and have no faith that she will change. She brings me happiness, but she doesn't bring me peace and security. I don't see how I can build a future with someone without peace and security. But, having said all of this, 90% of the time when we're not fighting, I am the happiest version of myself. That is because of her, and it breaks my heart having to leave her. Surely, turning your back on someone you love and someone that makes you happy can't be the answer. I'm stunned with indecision at the moment. Does anyone know how to address this in a healthy way? I'd really appreciate any advice. I told my partner we would break up if she threatened our relationship again. Now she has, I don't want to break up. Story, how do I, F32, communicate to my best friend, F32, that her career goals are becoming an obstacle in our friendship? Hello everyone, I am in a kind of pickle with one of my very dear friends. She is very nice, talkative and social but very career-driven, which is a good thing, and I have been pushing her to do more with her life. She has been taking care of her sick dad for years and didn't go out much. I met 2.5 years ago and her dad unfortunately passed away in April. Since I met her she started working a job to have more of a purpose, and then she got a second one since she felt like one wasn't enough, both government jobs but still at junior level. Even last year we didn't do like a weekly hangout, more like once a month and a half kind of meet to do a catch-up of our lives. But since the beginning of the year we meet up just twice, once in January on my birthday and then unfortunately when her father passed. I have been trying to reach out every other week to check up on her and if possible meet up, but she just takes on every possible chore that her job gives her voluntarily, even if we have plans to get up the ladder faster by doing more than her job description. This was even before her father passed. The pickle is that when sometimes friends from outside the country or relatives come to our city she makes time for them, but for me it feels like I have become a burden and she doesn't want to meet. I brought it up with her once after my birthday and she did tell me that she wants to focus more on work since she hasn't been able to due to her father's illness and really cares about me and considers me like family, but every attempt to hang out seems to be shut down because of work. We sometimes make plans and then she doesn't follow up with a meeting hour, so I text her. She then says that she is working so she cannot make it like today. She more often than not doesn't reach out to inform me about the cancelled plans. She's a great friend to me and I do care about her, so I was wondering how do I bring it up to her to meet up a little more often, still not weekly due to her work, but maybe once at every 2 months max since my feelings are getting hurt by this constant rejection, poor planning on her part. My best friend who is very career focused at the moment doesn't make any time for a meet-up, cancels plans without telling me most of the time. How do I bring it up to her that this is hurting my feelings and our friendship? Story, I, F30, don't know how to cope with my boyfriend, M41, of 2 years and his inability to grasp reality. I'm 30 years old, struggling to cope with what I believe is my boyfriend, ex-boyfriend's, 41 years old, lack of a full sense of reality. To provide some context, this all started about 2 years ago, 3 months after we started dating, when he had an episode of acute psychosis and committed himself under the Baker Act. He was afraid of people breaking in the windows and thought someone had broken into his roommate's room, so he broke down his roommate's door. Since then, he has been functioning relatively well and appears to be of sound mind in casual conversations. However, he has occasionally mentioned that he still sees shadow beings but has learned to live with them. He doesn't want to discuss this further because he fears being labeled crazy. He also reaches conclusions that make no sense and refuses to listen to me or accept any evidence that contradicts his beliefs. The most notable and persistent example is his belief that I supply weed to the local dealer I have bought small amounts from before. Despite having no reason to think this and me offering proof and even sharing my GPS location, he refuses to believe me. He doesn't believe almost anything I say, which is stressful and odd. When I was recently in the hospital, he didn't believe what I told him the doctor said either. I'm fed up with being treated this way and constantly being accused of lying. I've told him to stay away multiple times, which is why I referred to him as my boyfriend, ex-boyfriend. However, he shows up anyway, acting as if it's a normal day. If I tell him to leave, he refuses and just sits on the couch, knowing I can't physically make him leave. Recently, he's been talking about missing his family out of state. I've encouraged him to go be with them, as it seems he takes out a lot of his negative emotions on me and might be happier there. But he responds that he'll do what he wants, either staying or going, and won't be chased off by me. I really don't know how to cope with any of this. I'm 30 years old, struggling with my boyfriend, ex-boyfriend's, 41 years old, disconnection from reality. After an episode of acute psychosis 2 years ago, he still sees shadow beings and holds irrational beliefs, like thinking I supply weed to a local dealer. He refuses to believe anything I say, even about my recent hospital visit. Despite telling him to stay away, he shows up and refuses to leave. He misses his out-of-state family, and I've encouraged him to go, but he insists on doing what he wants and won't be chased off. I don't know how to cope with this situation. I neglected to mention that his mother has been diagnosed as bipolar, so I often wonder if any of this behavior from him are symptoms of bipolar. I have attempted to bring this up to him, but he shuts me down and won't even consider the possibility. Story: thinking of stepping away from a 5-year friendship after she let her boyfriend come between us. My 30 years old friend Alice, 28 years old, and I initially bonded over shared trauma. Last year I stopped drinking, smoking due to the impact on my mental health. I'll have the occasional drink or edible, but my social life no longer revolves around getting intoxicated. Alice still binge drinks socially, gets high every day. When I turn down her offers to smoke or drink, she is visibly disappointed, repeatedly asking if I'm sure. Although my sobriety isn't a problem with my other friends, I sometimes cave to pressure from her. Recently, I hosted Alice and her partner David for dinner. I texted her a few days prior explaining I was dealing with some family issues, not in the right headspace to entertain, suggesting we go out to eat instead. She talked me into hosting anyway, saying how excited she was, promising to make it stress-free for me. Spoiler alert, it was not stress-free at all. My partner had to leave early, so the three of us hung out in my living room afterwards. Despite my grief over said family troubles, I tried to put on a brave face. Alice produced a joint. I accepted, hoping it might relax me. For the next 30 minutes, I could feel myself talking too much about our upcoming trip for my 30th. David, who is very shy, didn't say much. At one point he returned from the bathroom saying he felt ill, was going home. I offered him my bedroom to lie down, but he insisted on leaving. Alice stayed and we went out dancing. 2 days later, Alice revealed David was hurt I had ignored him, asked what I had against him. I was confused because I recalled interacting with David that night. I told her the truth, that I hadn't meant to snub him. If I was less than socially adept, it was due to the weed. She kept repeating that I had ignored him. I asked for examples, but all she could say was that the conversation wasn't inclusive of him. I asked why she didn't do more to include him in the conversation then. She got upset, said I was trying to minimize my behavior and evade accountability. For the sake of our friendship, I agreed to apologize to him directly. She told me not to, as he wasn't ready. I was confused, but left it alone. She spent my birthday trip getting wasted at every opportunity. In a moment of sobriety, she again pressed me to come clean about why I ignored David. I got upset because I'd already told her the truth. She dropped it. The next day she gave me the silent treatment, then bought a bottle of tequila to drink on an empty stomach, while on psych meds. I confronted her. Cue the same argument. I decided to leave, enjoy the rest of my trip solo. I accepted her apology but expressed concerns about her drinking, which offended her. Since then we've had other conflicts that have left me emotionally exhausted. I've had to fight tooth, nail to assert my boundaries. After our latest fight, she is eager to mend things, but I'm starting to think this friendship isn't healthy. I hate to throw away 5 years of friendship, but I feel I need to protect my peace. After my best friend accused me of ignoring her boyfriend, subsequently ruined my 30th birthday trip, I am having trouble trusting her, think it may be time to step away from the friendship altogether. Story: should I break up with my girlfriend? Hey, so this is complicated, but I will try to keep it simple. I am 27 years old, and about 3 months ago, I met 27 years old a girl and we hit it off right away. For some background, she is one of the first real relationships I ever had, and I am used to being alone and mostly just keeping to myself. I live with my mom and enjoy video games, anime, and all things nerdy, so I'm that type of guy. Needless to say, this is all new to me, and she also has 2 kids and an ex-husband, all of which she was upfront with me about. For the first few months everything was amazing, especially the S word. We were so passionate and I grew to really care for her and her kids, who in retrospect I may have met too early on. Anyway, I got sick recently and she has been going through a lot too, planning this party for her and her family. She texted me today saying that she wanted space and is going through a lot, and I assumed that meant I could get out of driving the hour and a half to her house to go to the family party, and sadly, that made me happy. The reason I say sadly that made me happy is because I feel guilty and bad that I was happy I had a chance to bail on that. Anyway, we had a long conversation tonight, and I kinda told her I feel like we are rushing, and I'm not ready for the commitment of everything due to some of the stuff I said in the first paragraph, how I am used to being a loner homebody. But she has been nothing but amazing and nice to me, and even helped me come out of my shell a bit. Even still, I can't help but think that eventually I will want to break up because someday she will want to move in together and have me take a big responsibility role with the kids, and I don't know if I will ever be ready for it. I expressed the exact paragraph above pretty much word for word to her, and then she will says she wants to stay together and to not worry about the future and live in the moment. I tried to get her to break up with me, I guess, by making it clear I wasn't sure if we were going to last forever and wasn't ready for a long-term commitment. She has kids and other drama. She instead said she loves me and wants us to work out, making me think she is a prize and it would be selfish and I would regret it if we broke up because the only reason I want to is just so I can go back to gaming all the time and doing whatever the hell I want. And I don't think that's a good enough reason because overall she really does care about me, and I know for a fact a girl like that is hard to find because she is amazing, so I may regret it later if I end things. Story: I, at 28F, have been seeing my ex, 33M, and don't know if I should break it off or try to fix things. Ex 38 years old and I am 28 years old were in a long-term relationship that was majorly toxic. Both parties contributed to constant fighting, abusive threats, emotional manipulation, psychological abuse, cheating, etc. throughout the duration of this relationship. Before you write this story off and make the obvious comment that this relationship is unhealthy, just hear me out and put yourself in my shoes. I really love this man and in a lot of ways will always love this man. However, after years of putting up with toxicity and selfishness from him, I had finally had enough. Long story short, we moved out on our own and parted ways, except we never actually stopped talking or seeing each other. We go through phases where everything is wonderful, and then I'll find out that he's been looking for new connections on dating apps. When this happens, I tend to wander off and start talking to new people as well. Both of us act like this is unacceptable behavior even though we are not technically in an exclusive relationship. He will tell me how much he loves me, and then when we spend time together it seems like all we do is bicker or make jabs at each other. On top of that, there hasn't been any physical intimacy in weeks and he is pushing and pressuring me into it. I feel uncomfortable with this, but he makes a very fair claim that his physical intimacy is an important factor for him. It's clear that the correct answer is to break up and go no contact, but for some reason I just can't seem to do it. I clearly love him very much even if I'm not completely emotionally invested in the relationship right now, and we don't seem to be meeting one another's needs. I also don't trust his words because they don't seem to always match his actions. I truly don't know what to do or how to get through this. We have been terrible to one another and I feel this immense guilt in both leaving and staying. My friends and family can't stand him and vice versa. Does any of this stand a chance? I feel insane even asking this, but at the end of the day I love this man. Any advice, words of wisdom or commisery is welcomed. Ex and I had a toxic relationship but can't stop seeing each other. He ruined the relationship and I ruined the breakup. I feel like I'm either stuck in a cycle of abuse or that maybe I am the abuser. Story: my BF of 4 years told me to find someone else if I want something long term and that he doesn't believe in monogamy. I'm 26 years old, we've been together since I was 21 years old, he is now 31 years old. We've been together for 4 years in a monogamous relationship. I have a good job and have been stable since we met running my own business. He had a stable job, then 2020 happened and he hasn't been stable financially until the end of last year. We also live together. We were discussing the future and I don't even necessarily want to get married, but a promise ring would be ideal. He brought up having children about a year ago, which I would like to have some form of commitment if we were to go ahead on the child situation. I grew up in a broken home as did he, and I wouldn't like the same for my children ideally. I expressed worries of being a single mother and he said, "You wouldn't be, we would co-parent and you have family and friends, you would be fine." He said no to the promise ring and that he could see being with me for about 5 more years, maybe longer, but not long term. He told me if you want to be with someone forever, you should go be with someone else. Which was very painful because this has been the longest relationship in my adult life. Apparently, he doesn't believe in monogamy, which is what I thought our relationship has been since the beginning. A lot of confusion with that because now I question if the last nearly 5 years I've been with this person was even real. I don't want to feel like a burden, and I don't know why he ever asked me to be his girlfriend if he doesn't believe in that kind of thing anyways. I'm just truly confused because it didn't feel like I was speaking to him, just a stranger or something. A rug has been pulled out from under me. We never fight or have conflict, and usually things are good, but I can't ignore this conversation. I feel hurt and duped, to be honest. Even in times of emotional need, he tells me to go to therapy instead of offering comfort. I feel that things went great up until the last year because I've had a lot of unexpected, uncontrollable situations that have been putting a strain on my happiness, not regarding the relationship, and everything hasn't been sunshine and rainbows. I'm at a loss. This has been a huge slap in the face. I thought we were on the same page up until now, especially when he brought up children. Is it so crazy to ask for a little commitment? Or delusional to want to grow old and have romance together? He's not much of a romance guy. I'm pretty sure he's just comfortable and not deeply in love with me. I could use some advice. My boyfriend of 4 years doesn't believe in monogamy despite our monogamous relationship and told me to go be with someone else if I want something long-term. Super confused because he brought up wanting children with me. I never asked for that or marriage. Story: friend didn't invite me to his wedding. My 30 years old friend, 29 years old, got married last month. He hadn't really shared much in terms of his wedding plans with me, and I assumed was having a low-key event with just family, which is why I hadn't been invited, and I was fine with that. Until he sent me a text apologizing for not inviting me, and that the event was for family and friends only. His reasoning was that he couldn't invite me because then, by extension, he'd have to invite the rest of the community that we associate with. I told him family and friends only. Got it. We are Bengali, and there is a large Bengali community where we live, but neither of us are really involved in the community. The only real participation is attending a funeral of a community member. I thought that was a weak, flimsy excuse considering our minimal involvement with the community, and then I heard from a mutual friend that a few community members were actually invited and attended, as his father is a big member of the community. In addition, some of the other friends he invited are those he met not too long ago, 1 to 2 years, versus knowing me for 20 years. As a grown man, I'm a bit ashamed to say that this hurt me quite a lot. I thought we were super close since we talk on a weekly basis, hang out often, and have been friends for 20 years. I have a small family and very few friends. I considered him one of my closest friends, and he would always tell me things like, "I know you have a small family, but think of me and my family as your family." I feel like he could have invited me privately if he was worried about having to invite the community. Which he ended up doing anyway by inviting some members. Funnily enough, some community members were surprised that I wasn't there, and I told them I wasn't invited. My family was also hurt and offended by this situation and know his family very well. Friend still texts me on a weekly basis like nothing happened since we have many common interests. I hardly reply, hoping for some advice on how to go about things. My close friend didn't invite me parents to his wedding but invited other friends and other community members. Story: I, 38 am so exhausted, depressed, and beat down from never feeling attractive enough, even to my wife, 38F. How can I beat this feeling? I'm 38 years old, around 175 pounds, and right around 6 feet tall. I run and lift fairly regularly, and eat relatively healthy. I feel like maybe I could work on my midsection a little more, but I'm still in light athletic shape. I feel like I'm pretty average and plain in the face and maybe look a little young for my age. In the last few years, I've really invested time and money in skincare and think it has paid off. I get fairly expensive haircuts every month or two to keep looking nice. And yet after all of that, I am still so insecure about my appearance. I look in the mirror and I just never like what I see. No matter how much I work out, no matter how well I dress, no matter how much time I spend with different hair and skincare products, I still feel like there's just something about me that's off, and still never good enough. Like I just look a little goofy and just a little out of the ordinary, as if there's a little something unexplainable that puts me into some weird territory. Part of what makes me think this is that I don't feel like there's ever any external cues to let me know that all of my work in taking care of myself is paying off. My wife doesn't pay me that much attention. I never ever get compliments from anyone on how I dress or how much working out has paid off. When I am by myself in public, women never give me a second glance. There's just so much that tells me that I am just not enough when it comes to this. I know that a lot of people will say that attractiveness comes from other things as well. How funny a person is, how charismatic they are, stuff like that. I am feeling fairly confident about that too. I am a little shy and introverted until I get to know someone, but after that I feel fairly sure that I am charming and funny and caring for people. I just don't get it. I wish there was anything at all to tell me that I had some worth in terms of my appearance. Not having anything to go on makes me doubt myself and even hate myself at times. I know that things like this are supposed to come from within, but I feel like if I am only ever telling myself that and no one outside of my own biases ever tells me anything, it's just a delusion on my part. Story: am I overreacting that my boyfriend doesn't propose to me? Me 31 years old and my partner 31 years old are together for 7 years now, and we just bought our very first house last week. We have been together since we were 24 and we are not engaged, and I don't know if he ever want to propose because he's not really talking about it. Even when I ask him we just arguing about it, so I never thought about marriage when I was younger, but then when we both turned like 26 to 27 I started to show interest about it, and at the same time everybody around us, all our friends got engaged, had wedding, expected their first child, etc. And I mentioned him that I want to get engaged before I turn 30. He never said anything. And I just kept repeating myself and he just kept saying nothing. I felt guilty and bad for mentioning and saying things like this to him because I didn't want to put pressure on him, but at the same time I wanted to know his thoughts and also let him know what I want. We were already saving up for deposit to buy a house, and once he said that after we have the house we want he can buy a nice ring and propose, but right now he doesn't have £5,000 to spend on a ring. I already knew what ring I want, and that doesn't cost that much, and also I would never want him to buy me such an expensive ring anyway. So I told him this, and I sent him the rings I like, and I told him he can choose which one he wants to propose with. I just wanted him to know I don't expect anything expensive, I just want to see that he is serious too, just like me. His answer was that if he wouldn't be serious he would not buy a house with me. This was like 2 years ago. Since that, every holiday we go on, every night out together, every birthday, every family events we go together, I think he'll do it, but nothing. People around us keep questioning him about it, and he just says, oh, our plan is to buy a house first and then I can afford a ring, but it's not our plan, just his. But it's awkward for me, and it makes me angry because I already told him I don't want expensive ring and I wanted to get engaged before 30. Every time we talk about this we just arguing. He gets offended because I say what I think and what I feel, and then he doesn't really speaks to me for days. I just realized that we don't want the same things from life, and it makes me sad. I'm 31 already and I don't want to say yes anymore to him because I feel he just ruined everything. I don't know what to do anymore because I can't have a serious conversation with him about this, and even if I would have one I feel nothing would change. I don't want to propose to him, that's just not me, and he would not want that either. I think the communication between us is very, very bad, and I don't know how to fix it because I know if I mention this he'll not talk to me. I just don't want to wait anymore, and I don't want to say yes anymore. And I hate this feeling. Even when I ask him we just arguing about it. Story: my brother is abusing drugs and breaking the law. I don't know what to do. Hello, I am 23 years old. My brother, 18 years old, was just caught by me and my parents doing hard drugs yesterday right after a cop came to our house to give him a warning because he got caught violating his restraining order by bringing an underage girl into the house. He started acting weird 6 months ago when he met a new friend group. My parents gifted him a car when he turned 18 and he crashed it, making it undrivable. He then started using my mom's car, which he then totaled. And then finally he stole my dad's brand new Tesla in the middle of the night with a bunch of underage kids and his friend Billy. Turns out he's the supplier, and drove it into a tree, totaling it. Since then he was been sneaking people into the house, mostly an underage girl 15 years old who's my dad's best friend's daughter, which he claims he's in love with. The family put a restraining order on my brother so they wouldn't contact each other, but they still do, and he got caught by the cops because she snuck into the house to bring my brother drugs. I discovered this because he left his Snapchat open on his computer after we caught him with the hard drugs. Ever since the first accident, I had been begging my parents to give him consequences for his actions, but they continued to ignore my pleas until the final car was smashed. Since then, we have been arming the house with Ring cameras, sensors, and alarms. As of now, my dad has probably spent almost $1,000 on new security alone. My parents are saying they want to section my brother Section 35 Massachusetts, but I really hope they actually put him in rehab or inpatient. I hope they actually go through with it. My brother was a quiet, sweet, and sensitive person with not a lot of friends before this happened, and now it's like talking to a zombie who won't stop lying. I don't know what to do with myself. I find myself getting angrier and angrier at him, and I feel guilty. He won't stop lying about everything with sometimes a shit-eating grin. Last night he jumped out of an 8-foot window in the middle of the night. I can't get a night's rest without an alarm going off, and am having extreme anxiety and paranoia. I don't know how involved I should be in this. I feel like a parent at times. I don't know how I should be reacting/treating my brother. I want to move out, but I feel bad leaving my little sister 13 years old to deal with this alone, and my dad also has been saying he doesn't want me to. I really do want to leave, but I don't know if it's the right thing to do. My brother is abusing drugs, smashing cars, messing with underage girls, and I don't know what to do. Story: feeling unappreciated and neglected in 6-year relationship, seeking advice. My fiancé is 35 years old and I am 29 years old. Have been fighting more recently because his actions seem selfish. We've been together for over 6 years, but I feel like a broken record, constantly repeating myself without any change from him. I've asked him to learn how to cook and be more considerate in the bedroom. He doesn't cook at all, and when he tries, it's a disaster. In the bedroom, he always finishes, leaving me unsatisfied. Only recently has he started to clean up after himself because he was disgusted by his own bodily fluids. He hasn't matured much and still expects me to handle most things. When I went on a 6-month work trip, I hoped he'd learn to be more self-sufficient. Instead, he left the fridge untouched and didn't make any effort to cook, despite promising to make my favorite dishes. When I come home late from work in the gym, I often find him on the couch playing video games or watching TV, with nothing prepared. This frustrates me, especially since he doesn't take any initiative. Each year I've become more vocal about my needs and frustrations, which has led to more arguments. I feel like I'm talking to a toddler, reminding him to treat others how he wants to be treated. He often damages my things and tries to make up for it with money, but that doesn't solve the problem. I'm torn about whether to stay with him. My family loves him and I don't like to share anything bad about my relationships with anyone, even my friends. I can't imagine life without him, but I'm tired of feeling unappreciated and neglected. I'm seeking therapy to sort out my feelings and figure out the best path forward. I feel like I've tried everything and made every initiative. I'm tired of being set memes in hopes of me forgiving him. I wish he'd stop apologizing and actually solve problems with me. My fiancés and I have been fighting more. I handle most of the chores and feel unappreciated. He doesn't take initiative in cooking or in the bedroom. Considering whether to stay with him and seeking therapy to sort out my feelings. Story: I, at 28F, don't know how to mend my relationship with my ex, 33M. Ex 33 years old and I am 28 years old were in a long-term relationship that was majorly toxic. Both parties contributed to constant fighting, abusive threats, emotional manipulation, psychological abuse, cheating, etc. throughout the duration of this relationship. Before you write this story off and make the obvious comment that this relationship is unhealthy, just hear me out and put yourself in my shoes. I really love this man and in a lot of ways will always love this man. However, after years of putting up with toxicity and selfishness from him, I had finally had enough. Long story short, we moved out on our own and parted ways, except we never actually stopped talking or seeing each other. We go through phases where everything is wonderful and then I'll find out that he's been looking for new connections on dating apps. When this happens, I tend to wander off and start talking to new people as well. Both of us act like this is unacceptable behavior even though we are not technically in an exclusive relationship. He will tell me how much he loves me and then when we spend time together it seems like all we do is bicker or make jabs at each other. On top of that, There hasn't been any physical intimacy in weeks and he is pushing and pressuring me into it. I feel uncomfortable with this, but he makes a very fair claim that physical intimacy is an important factor for him. It's clear that the correct answer is to break up and go no contact, but for some reason I just can't seem to do it. I clearly love him very much even if I'm not completely emotionally invested in the relationship right now, and we don't seem to be meeting one another's needs. I also don't trust his words because they don't seem to always match his actions. I truly don't know what to do or how to get through this. We have been terrible to one another and I feel this immense guilt in both leaving and staying. My friends and family can't stand him and vice versa. Any advice on how to leave, get over this, or even fix this is encouraged. Ex and I had a toxic relationship but can't stop seeing each other. He ruined the relationship and I ruined the breakup. I feel like I'm either stuck in a cycle of abuse or that maybe I am the abuser. Story: spouse is a chronic complainer. He does not see it this way. What is normal? I'm 33 years old. Spouse is 31 years old. Spouse complains about lack of sleep constantly. He's a chronic complainer but doesn't see it this way. What is normal? For context, we have an almost 3-year-old and my husband works from home. Since our child has been born, he's been the primary caretaker because I leave to a medical office Monday through Friday for work and am home by 4 p.m. to take over. He works overnight. He absolutely refuses outside help even now with his mom who's recently moved into town. He essentially has to function off of at best 3 to 6 hours of broken up sleep spread across pre-shift and post-shift. I absolutely get it. I've acknowledged how crappy this schedule is and continue to make effort to provide him relief here and there, like leaving early from work, taking PTO, etc. And genuinely, when I know for a fact he didn't sleep well or had a terrible day where he has to function off of the bare minimum, I don't care if he says a complaint or two about being exhausted. However, this is an everyday thing. It is the theme of our conversation 80% of the time. If it's bath time or having family time, it's an ever-revolving wheel of very negative ick about grocery shopping. I'm exhausted. And usually his complaints tie to our child. He woke up too early this morning and I'm too exhausted, then rants about how he doesn't know how he's going to function for work. Or it's I couldn't sleep well because of their tantrum. The big picture here is that the reason why he's not getting enough sleep is because of our child's schedule. Just like any parent. But to complain about it nearly all day and all night long. Last winter he spent the entire 3 months complaining on how cold it was, begging every night for the summer to get here. He complained nearly every single day and night how it affected his back, and he'd at least once a day make a comment about praying to the God for summer to get here. We live in a southern state, so once it got here it was hot. What does he end up doing? Complains every day how hot it is. How miserable he is. How he can't work in the garage well because of how hot it gets in there. He works in the garage to take meetings so he doesn't wake up our child, and now I've had a bad taste in my mouth because, didn't you ask for this? He's also extremely unpleasant to be around in these state where he's in his complaining mode. I want to know, am I just being insensitive? He says that his entire childhood family did this. They'd just complain to each other as if it was a fun pastime hobby or something. In my household growing up, it was seen extremely negatively. You'd come off ungrateful as a non-doer and nut up shut up type household. I need some desperate insight. I have tried the shoulder or solution. His answer to that was he never wants a solution. He just wants to complain. Is chronic complaining totally normal? Again. He doesn't even use the word complaining. He sees it as a fun pastime and a way to be supported. Story: mentally drained from family, so problems. I can't take it. How do I make it stop? I am 31 years old, felt like I had a nearly perfect life. And I was always seen as the perfect daughter. Then I met my first boyfriend, 30 years old, and it felt like he made my life better. And then it went downhill. I'm not sure if I need advice or just moral support, I just feel overwhelmed. I keep having fights with him and my parents in their 60s, and most often than not I am not the initiator, and I hate it because it's like I'm never allowed to have peace anymore. If my isn't picking fights with me, it's my parents picking fights with me about him. I feel helpless, drained, and like I want to cry. I don't know what to do. My heart aches. It's like the only time I'm truly happy now is at work when I'm away from everyone I love. My parents told me they hate him, they can't stand him, they want me to dump him, and they say he's going to ruin my life. It doesn't matter what he does, they find a way to criticize him and remind me of how much they hate him. I've been with him nearly 2 years, is constantly thinking negative about them and has insulted them to my face. We've had big fights over this when he has episodes. And I don't think he likes them much in general anymore. The truth is I love my so a lot and he does make me happy, even if my posts don't always reflect it. I love being in his arms. He's my best friend. And I miss him when we're apart. We have fun together and he does try to take care of me. But he has some mental health struggles and that's led to emotional abuse toward me during episodes, and that makes me miserable. It got really bad. Long story, something happened that my parents got involved, and while the situation between me and So has since improved, his episodes are less and he's worked to improve. Their relationship with him is strained. My relationship with my parents in turn is not as good as it was because I've stand up for him when I thought my parents were being unfair, just like I've stood up for them when I thought he was being unfair. This is getting to be too much. I feel depressed. I feel drained. Anxious. Everyone is breaking my heart. I want peace. Can it get better? How can I find peace? What can I do? I feel hopeless. My parents and BF don't like each other and they all keep picking fights with me, making me miserable. What can I do to make it stop? Bye and see you again in the next videos and stories.